Hello and welcome to Philosophy Vibe, the channel where we discuss and debate different philosophical ideas. Today we are going to look into the principle of sufficient reason and discuss whether this argument does in fact prove the existence of God. Great. So then, the principle of sufficient reason sits within the cosmological argument for the existence of God. It uses cause and effect to argue that some sort of God or creator does exist and is responsible for the creation of our universe, world and life. In this video, we are going to explain the principle of sufficient reason, and we'll discuss how strong and convincing the argument is in leading one to adopt a belief in a God or deity of some sort. Okay, let's begin. Very well. So, pretty straightforward actually. The principle of sufficient reason states that for any event or entity in existence, there is a reason or a cause for its existence. So, if we're walking down the street and we see a phone lying on the floor, we know there must be a reason for this phone to be lying here. It has been dropped or left by someone. There is a reason for this phone to be here. Likewise, if I see a smashed glass on the floor, there is a reason why this glass is smashed and a cause for the smashed glass. Let's say someone knocked it over and caused it to smash. So basically, any event or entity can be explained. Everything has a reason for its existence and a cause for its existence. I see. Now, there have been a lot of proponents of the principle of sufficient reason, but I just want to focus on Leibniz, which is one of the more famous philosophers who has discussed this principle. So, Leibniz understood there was a difference between necessary and contingent truths. For those of you who are not familiar with this, we recommend seeing our video on it, but to give a brief description, a necessary truth is a truth that cannot be false. The denial of a necessary truth would lead one into a contradiction. A necessary truth is true under all circumstances. It cannot not be the case. And so, it follows the law of non-contradiction. Again, see our video on that one too. But for example, to say 5 is a prime number is a necessary truth. It's true by definition. If I say I have 5 pencils in my hand and the amount of pencils I have in my hand is not a prime number, this would be a contradiction. Correct. The opposite to necessary truths are contingent truths. These are truths that could have been false. They are not true by definition. So today I am wearing a black jumper. True. But not necessarily true. I could have been wearing a white jumper. Do you see? Yes. Right. So, as necessary truths follow the law of non-contradiction, contingent truths follow the principle of sufficient reason. For every contingent truth, there must be a reason for it to be true, because it could have been false. So, Joanne drives a red car. This is a contingent truth. What makes it true, or the reason it is true, is because Joanne likes the colour red, she went to the car shop, chose the red car, bought the car, and now Joanne drives a red car. Or back to the glass. The glass is smashed. The reason is because I dropped it. I was the cause of the smashed glass. Okay, this makes sense. I understand the principle. But how is God involved in this? How does the principle prove the existence of God? Let's look at it. Now, firstly, we adopt the principle of sufficient reason as a basic law. It is cause and effect. We understand our world based on this principle. The study of science is to learn from our empirical world, to understand how things are the way they are, the causes and the reasons and so on and so on. We don't just accept that things could exist or be without any sort of cause or reason. If this was the case, if our planet was that chaotic, it would make no sense to try and learn from it and understand it. If the principle of sufficient reason didn't hold, I don't know, we would just expect buildings to just appear uncaused or random tractors to just pop up out of nowhere. Likewise, how can we ever learn basic scientific principles? We expect the planet and our empirical world to behave a certain way. That's the cause and effect. So when we discover something, we discover what caused it, and we would expect this to persist. Yes, I understand. So, If we accept the principle of sufficient reason, as we all do, and we accept that all contingent things need a sufficient reason to explain them, we must also agree that the universe itself is a contingent entity. It does not have necessary existence. The universe could not have existed. The fact that it does exist as a contingent entity means it needs a sufficient reason for its existence. The fact that there is something, the fact that this whole universe exists, means it needs a cause. Under the principle of sufficient reason, nothing can exist without a cause. There are no uncaused events or uncaused entities. So if the universe needs a cause, then we need to put a God in place. We need a being beyond the universe to be the sufficient reason of the universe. And so, if we accept the principle of sufficient reason, which we all obviously do, we must then agree that God does exist and is the sufficient reason of our existence.
A good argument. It is logical and reasonable. However, I don't think this proves the existence of God. The principle of sufficient reason is not enough to adopt a belief in God.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, so what is it you don't agree with?
Firstly, why does the universe need a cause? As Bertrand Russell argued, could the universe just be a brute fact? It didn't come into existence, it doesn't go out of existence, it just is, it just exists.
Because the universe is a contingent entity, and we know the universe began to exist. The Big Bang Theory is accepted and the likely beginning.
Likely beginning of the observable universe, but this could just be a universe within a universe, if you will. I don't think the Big Bang explains the totality. There is infinitely more that could have just always been, no beginning or end, just a brute fact.
So I don't understand. Why then do you accept the principle of sufficient reason all the time throughout your life, but the second God is brought up you suddenly drop it? Where else have you experienced a brute fact? When has something just appeared in existence out of nowhere and has no cause or reason for its existence? This has never been experienced, so why should you adopt this just to get out of a belief in God?
I think you are conflating the rules for the parts with the rules for the whole. Whilst I do believe in the principle of sufficient reason, this is only for what is within the universe. I don't think the whole universe has to play by the rules that govern within. It's like saying, I have a mother and you have a mother and every human has a mother, so then the human race has a mother. Just because something applies to the parts does not mean it applies to the whole. So, whilst entities and events within the universe are subject to the principle of sufficient reason, I don't think I have to accept that the universe is subject to the principle of sufficient reason.
But why wouldn't the same laws follow? The universe has these strict laws, or let's say reality has these strict laws. If they don't apply to the universe as a whole, then where does this lead? Does the law of non-contradiction not apply to the universe as a whole? Does the universe simultaneously exist and not exist? It sounds absurd.
But you are guilty of the same thing, just with God.
What do you mean?
Well, I could say if God created the universe, then who created God? To which you will say that God has always been, right? He is eternal and no one created him. He is the uncaused cause.
Yes, because God is a necessary being.
Right, okay. So, according to that argument, God is essentially a brute fact. All I am saying is, just to apply this to the universe as a whole, let's say the universe is a necessary entity, an infinite eternal entity that was not created but goes on to create everything else.
So now you sound like a pantheist, which is essentially a theistic belief.
I don't want to get into a debate on pantheism now. Let's keep it to the classical belief in God. For this reason, the principle of sufficient reason is not enough to prove God's existence. And my last point, I fully appreciate we live by cause and effect. However, there are certain scientific studies on the quantum level and the uncertainty principle where photons and electrons cannot be measured and things seem to happen without any sort of reason, but more so chaotic chance. The principle of sufficient reason does not seem to hold at the quantum level, so there may be a debate about how absolute the principle is.
Well, we're not physicists, so I think this might be a bit out of our depths. However, generally, in science, if we don't understand a reason or a cause, it's because we haven't discovered it yet. As we grow and evolve and get better, we go on to understand more about the wonders of the universe. Although the quantum level seems so mysterious, I think we're not in a position to really cast doubt on the cause and effect principle.
Fair enough.
If you would like the script to this video and you would like to help support the channel, then please check out the Philosophy of Religion Part 2 ebook available on Amazon. Also, we have our Philosophy of Religion paperback anthology available on Amazon. This is a deep dive into all areas of the philosophy of religion, a great read and a great study guide, and thank you to everyone who has purchased our books so far. We really appreciate it. But that's all the time we have for now. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed the vibe. And what does everyone else think? Does the principle of sufficient reason prove the existence of God? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and share. And for more philosophical debates, please subscribe to the channel. Take care, and we look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye bye.